On this episode of the Inside Line F1 podcast and Pits To Podium, we preview the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and not bring you the 5 things to watch out for. This time, you're getting the 6 things to watch out for, and they range from the circuit to Charles Leclerc to a special stat brought to you by Sundaram that can engage a lot of interesting discussion about one of the top teams, more about the flexi wings as well. All of that on this episode. Let's dive into it. Well, hello there, folks. Welcome along to this Baku GP preview here on the Inside Line F1 podcast and Pits To Podium. My name is Soumil Arora. You might know me from the driving force on Hotstar. And I've got Kunal Shah here with me, the ex-marketing head of the Force India Formula 1 team, who now works as a motorsport consultant for the Sport Network in Norway. Kunal, we're back at probably what has to be one of the best street circuits on the Formula 1 calendar ever, I think.
Yes, Soumil, we are Baku, as they're calling it this weekend. And I think that's fantastic wordplay. You know, they've done it several times before in the short history they have in Formula One. And I know you said we don't have 5, but maybe 6 things that,
right,
you know, our listeners and viewers should look out for. But I literally have a list of maybe 15 things to look out for this weekend. And, you know, not some things major, but something as simple as TV direction will actually be back to normal this weekend. So we may not get to see the Lance Stroll slow-mos in case some overtakes happen. And guys, we know that Baku will have a lot of overtakes, right? And then I'm, of course, you know, looking forward to seeing Hamilton not struggling and instead Bottas struggling, because we are not used to seeing Hamilton struggle in the Mercedes. And
that's true.
Bottas' struggle started all the way before the race. He struggled to even get to Baku in time for the race weekend. I mean, in time for this, official press conference, right? And then some of the other things, I'm looking forward to Mercedes not having a pit error. They've had lots of errors this weekend. Then I have to be honest, this is more from the heart, but I'm looking forward to Mick Schumacher being ahead of Nikita Mazepin again from this weekend onwards, because let's face it, I'm not ready to see Mazepin outperform Mick Schumacher already or ever in Formula One, right? And that's what happened in Monaco. And, again, excited to see if Vettel's resurgence was a one-off in Monaco. It's a street circuit, who knows if his mojo stays with him this weekend as well. And just so many things to look forward to. It's just Baku. And, before we get started, I have to say this. I really hope we don't get a repeat winner this weekend in Baku. I hope that stat remains true for as many years as Baku hosts the Azerbaijan Grand Prix.
Exactly, and we could also see some surprise podiums coming in here and there as well. Remember what Lance Stroll had done a few years ago. Crazy stuff has almost always happened at this circuit. And coming to that Vettel point very briefly, it'll be so awesome to see if that comeback is real, right? Because it just got us so excited seeing Sebastian Vettel beat everyone, come up to P number 5 and briefly get interrupted by Lance Stroll. But that's become a worldwide meme. Don't worry, on this episode of the Inside Line F1 and Pits To Podium, we won't be interrupted by Lance Stroll. Our TV direction, although a bit scrappy because it's done by me, I think it's not too bad. So I doubt that Lance Stroll's going to come here.
It's world-class, Soumil. There's millions of listeners and viewers who absolutely love the dual role, or the more than a dual role that you play, with all the posts on social media as well. So thank you so much for doing that.
That's Sundaram, Nitin and Clayton and Chashasvi, all the guys managing our social media. Follow there for more information on the Grand Prix prediction competition, which is going to be crazy here at Baku, because almost always nobody can get it correct here at Baku. That's going to be the fun part. But coming to the circuit, the reason why nobody can get it correct is because of all the madness it produces. I mean, track characteristics just become something repetitive, but something so exciting when you've literally got a castle in your circuit. How crazy is that? And the steep descents, the crazy ascents here at the Baku circuit. For sure, there might be a few 90-degree corners, but that third sector, Kunal, it's manic.
It is. I mean, Baku is probably the most ideal street circuit out there for the world of Formula One and maybe even in the world of motorsport. And this weekend, guys, we are going to more than make up for all the lack of overtaking we had in Monaco and in Barcelona. Two races where overtaking is just so tough. And, you know, when you think Baku, you literally think about the castles, you think about one of the circuits with the longest of straights that is there. Straight line speeds are going to be phenomenally quick. We also have the narrowest part of a racing track in Baku as well. So, a great balance of all the factors that make for a fun race. As always, track limits might not always be the problem, but watch out for turn 16. That will have track limits. That's what the FIA has said. But just so much fun. Just knowing that we're racing in Baku means that, hey, we are definitely having an unpredictable race this weekend, Soumil.
And compare and contrast this to what we were all feeling after 2016 when Well Done Baku was a line of sarcasm instead of us genuinely expressing our love towards this circuit, because that race was, let me think of the right word for it, drab, that's what it is. But after that, Baku has just been on a roll. But coming to the point, let's be succinct. Let's not go into singing love praises about Baku, because quite often we can end up doing that for too long. But what is it according to you, Kunal? Why is it, according to all of us at Pits To Podium, probably one of the better street circuits out there? Why is it not, let's say, different to a Las Vegas street circuit? Or maybe, on a more honest note, say something like a Miami or a Jeddah that we're about to experience? Because this clearly has something to it. Even though it may have 90-degree corners, there's a charm to it.
There is. And, the 90-degree corners are just one part of the circuit, right? There is this other part where, as we've been hearing all weekend, and you're still going to hear it, guys, the buzzword is it's a mix of Monaco and Monza, right? And that's exactly the right mix why Baku sort of becomes so special. And, unlike other street circuits, where overtaking is difficult, Baku sort of says, hey, come, we'll give you 3 cars on the main straight trying to attack the same corner. And we've seen that several times. Unlike other street circuits, where we've seen that track position is vital. Baku says, doesn't matter. I'm going to give you like a short 21-second pit lane so you can sort of have strategy and overtaking that happens on track. So just, since we know Singapore is cancelled, I don't mind the 2 races at Baku, Soumil.
Now that is something that I quite like. That's a good idea. And it's become so popular, the circuit, that even the Grand Tour, or rather, let's be honest, the Top Gear trio of Jeremy Clarkson, Richard Hammond and James May, they had to go there to film their special episode about the Caspian Sea. And of course, they made their way to the circuit. That's how iconic it has become in only a matter of a couple of years. Well, that's enough of singing praises about Baku. Let's move on to something else. And before we get to a very special segment that we've got here today, let's speak a little bit about what we can offer to all of our international listeners. By international, we mean outside India, because this podcast is mainly done by 2 Indians. One of them who's sitting in Norway, one of them who will be sitting in Norway in a few years. But that's a different story. You, my friend, can actually get a 20% discount plus free shipping on all of Manscaped's products. That's absolutely right. And I don't need to tell you about who Manscaped are and how good their products are, because quite frankly, if you are a good podcast listener, you might have seen their ads, you might have heard about them everywhere, and there's a reason for that. Use the code TRIMINSIDE for a 20% discount plus free shipping on their products for all countries, sadly bar India, but I'm sure that they'll come here soon as well. But no lawnmower moments of the day, Kunal, over here, luckily. No lawn to cut off.
No lawn to cut off, but Charles Leclerc had the free practice lawnmower of the day moment, I would say. The Manscaped lawnmower moment of the day. And I of course, full radio transcript wasn't released by the time we were recording, but there's a good chance he turned out and said, I switch off everything. I am stupid again. It's so strange. They actually removed the curbing there. So the line in that corner has changed. But again, it's free practice. It's good. And I hope this is the last crash of his weekend.
So how many has Leclerc had over there? I think there's one iconic one. Did he have one in 2018? No, did he? I don't think he did.
I think I would typically ask Sundaram or Lucian, because they are the guys who remember which driver did what and when. I think I have a goldfish memory. 7 races in and I forget what happened.
Well, in fact, one person who does have an incredible memory and one person who can bring out amazing stats is going to be here with us in a second. So here goes. Here's the stats preview by Sundaram.
All right, it's time for a little pit stop. So let's do a stats preview of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix to understand which drivers and teams could have a good outing on Sunday. We're coming from Monaco, the slowest street circuit, to Azerbaijan, the fastest street circuit on the F1 calendar, where drivers can clock upwards of 355 kilometers per hour on that main stretch. Now, Baku has hosted 4 races here before, with the inaugural one being called the European Grand Prix back in 2016. On 4 races, there's no one driver who we can call a clear favorite to take pole or win the race, because we've had 4 different pole sitters and 4 different race winners. Now, if we go with that pattern and we don't have a repeat pole sitter or a race winner, one of the first names that comes to mind is Max Verstappen. Now, just like Monaco, he doesn't have a very good record in Baku as well. And it's also one of those very rare occasions where his teammate has more points and podiums than him at one circuit. Sergio Perez, driving for Force India and Racing Point before this, has 38 points and 2 podiums at this very circuit, whereas Max Verstappen has just 16 points and no podiums at all. Now, if I have to bet my money on any one driver going solely on form, Verstappen is that driver, because he's qualified on the front 2 rows in every race this season, the only driver to do so, and he has 19 podiums in his last 20 race finishes. Now, we say that there's not one driver who's actually dominated this track, true, but there's one particular engine supplier who has dominated in the 4 races held over here, and that is Mercedes. Out of the 12 podium positions that have in the last 4 races, Mercedes cars have filled 8 of those. That doesn't mean just Mercedes Works teams. It doesn't mean that just the Mercedes Works team performs well away. It's also the customer teams. Williams and Force India have a combined of 3 podiums the last 4 races here. That shifts focus to McLaren Mercedes. Can they get their first rostrum appearance on Sunday? Well, they've never finished higher than 7th over here, and with their British wonderkid and Lando Norris, who's currently on a 10-race point scoring streak, and also understanding that Baku has a very mixed-up podium usually, there's a pretty high possibility that McLaren could end up on the podium once again. And if you've not actually answered our Prediction League questions for this weekend, there's a question if McLaren can be on the podium. I'd say that that's a possibility. The other driver we have to talk about this for this weekend is Sebastian Vettel. He's qualified in the top 4 and finished in the top 4 in every race in Azerbaijan. Now, that's going to be a long shot this year, but just like in Monaco, never say never. We also have to talk about Charles Leclerc. In 2018, he started from 14th on the grid and he finished 6th, his first ever F1 points, that too with a Sauber car. And in 2019, he started 9th and he went and finished 5th. So he's one of those drivers who usually makes up a lot of places on race day. So definitely watch out for him as well. And the last driver we're going to be talking about is Daniel Ricciardo. Now, we know he's had a torrid race in Monaco, and it's not going to be any easier in Baku. Because since his race win in 2017, he's not scored any points over here. That's because he's had two race retirements, one of which everyone clearly remembers. Let's talk about the safety car. So the safety car has made some sort of an appearance, either a full or a virtual safety car in 3 of the last 4 races. So once again, there's a very high possibility we could see a safety car being deployed in one of the initial laps or probably much later as well. Well, that is the stats preview of the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. I'll see you guys before the French Grand Prix.
Interesting stuff there, wasn't it? Some really fun stats, and actually it got me thinking. Let's dwell more upon that Max Verstappen stat right there. Never has he scored more points than any of his teammates, so currently being outscored on points and podiums by his, well, ex-Racing Point, now Red Bull teammate in Sergio Perez. And it's one of those rare ones. Sergio Perez has almost always had a good run at Baku, but could we see his Red Bull fortunes turn for the better here, Kunal? But now, Verstappen seemingly is off the best run of his entire life, and Perez historically is at the edge over here. We had these similar odds in Monaco, but it did not go to the favour of someone who was coming in with the run of his life. That way, Verstappen ended up getting the best run.
Absolutely, Soumil. And, Perez has had 2 podiums out here, which I think is fantastic. The only circuit with where he scored 2 podiums, if my memory is right. And I would love to see this trend continue, just for the sake of having some fun. I know it will impact on the Drivers' Championship, or rather, it could have a big impact on the Drivers' Championship. But, after topping FP2 today, Checo Perez said that I now know how to extract more time and feel more comfortable in my Red Bull racing car. And truth be told, all drivers who made a switch to a new car in 2021 will only get better as they get more mileage. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. And I know, Max Verstappen has qualified on the front row pretty much all races this season. That's if my memory is correct again. And if that trend also continues, if the Red Bull racing cars sort of lock out the front row, I think that would be phenomenal. But Soumil, I don't think, even though Mercedes has had a really bad FP2 or FP1 as well, I wouldn't rule them out for just one simple reason, and that is that it's Mercedes and their race pace is actually comparable to Red Bull Racing's.
Of course, there's that. To get to that in a second, what I meant to say was that in Monaco, there were two types of people. One who had the historical advantage in Monaco, one who was coming in with the run of their life. The one with the historical edge, well, let's just say they didn't have the best of weekends. That's Lewis Hamilton. Will we see something similar happen with Perez or Verstappen? We don't know, but Mercedes is going to be an even more critical question, as you rightly said, Kunal. Because from free practice, they seem to be nowhere. Seems like Bottas is still in Finland because he's in P16 and FP2. Hamilton seems to be back in Stevenage because he's in P11 right now in FP2. Or maybe his heart's still back in Monaco. Or no, maybe the performance is there as well, because for some reason the Mercedes just does not seem to be fast in the free practice sessions, Kunal. And the interesting team radio message that got me thinking, is this gamesmanship or is this all real, was that I think it was Hamilton who said, I can't just extract more pace from this car. I don't know where others are getting time from. I'm paraphrasing, but you get the idea. Was he, though? Can he really not find all that pace? Oh, it can't go all of a sudden, can it?
The thing is, the Mercedes, this year's Mercedes definitely takes time into getting more tire temperatures and we've seen that. We've seen them struggle pretty much through all the races. It's either been Bottas or Hamilton, and sometimes it's both of them, like it probably was today. And in their post-session, interviews as well, they both said the same thing, that we pretty much did everything we could, but we weren't able to extract any pace. And they were all talking about the fact that single lap pace is their biggest challenge, but race pace, they're right up there. And, Soumil, they're going to sit through the simulator in the night. They're going to do all sorts of permutations, combinations, make some changes. And I have a feeling they will be up there again come the business end of this weekend.
But that's not going to be their major problem. I think their major problem, the real major problem that is going to cause them the most problems, if that makes any sense, is going to be pit stops, because recently they just recorded officially the longest pit stop in the history of Formula One. Got the tires off Bottas's car on, what was it, Tuesday or Wednesday? Someday midweek. But they've been having real troubles, Kunal. And there's been some pit stop kerfuffles throughout the grid, but Mercedes have had the real issue since, Saga last year.
Yeah, but I have to point one more thing out, Soumil.
Uh-huh.
They got the tires of Bottas's car on the Tuesday or the Wednesday, but a pit stop is actually counted as completed when they bolt on a new set of tires,
That's
which
right.
we of course don't know when they did that.
That's right.
But I think the other bigger headache Mercedes is going to have this weekend, and this is for all of Formula One, is the flexi wings saga. And there's all sorts of checks that the FIA have put in place. We've seen all those yellow dots on everyone's rear wings. F1 has put out so many comparison videos of the Red Bull Racing rear wing against McLaren, against the Mercedes. And something that Soumil and I did, guys, before we actually started recording this video, was see a comparison of the Red Bull Racing and Mercedes front wing. And guess what? We actually found that maybe the Mercedes front wing flexes a little more than the Red Bull front wing. And of course, it's the winglets, like, you pointed out, Soumil. But, when it comes to flexing, it's only a couple of millimeters sometimes that makes all the difference in performance, given how millimeter obsessed the sport is.
So let's actually go for a masterclass of sorts. I think we can take a minute right here. So, what is this flexi business all about? It's not a bodybuilding competition by any which ways whatsoever, but there seems to be real gains. That's the reason why they're having such a fuss over it. So, what is it? What sort of gains are we looking at with the extra flexing? And according to you, what should be the way out, Kunal?
The first thing to remember is wings have always flexed. They are put under tremendous load when a car is accelerating and it's at top speed and the like. So the wings have always flexed. We've seen videos all the way from the early to 2010s and before that wings have flexed. And so that I don't get too technical, if the wing flexes at a particular angle and in a particular direction when it's at top speed, it helps the car go faster in a straight line. And then when it's time for the wings to start working, it's closer to when it approaches a corner, and that's when the wing stiffens up. So it's a lot to do with what kind of composite materials and what kind of designs the team have when it comes to making these wings. And in the case of Red Bull, in the case of Alfa Romeo, now the FIA have camera evidence that when it's on the straight lines, the rear wing of the Red Bull actually falls a little backwards, okay, so that it gives it more speed, but it gets back in position when load decreases as it approaches a corner. So it's like I said, to the naked eye, we will never notice it, but this is the depth to which teams are tracking competition just to make sure that they don't lose out on a competitive advantage, or if a team has an unfair competitive advantage. Soumil.
Crazy to think, right? I mean, when you realize how much R&D time and how much R&D money goes into flexing wings, and even a system like the DAS, you have to understand that Formula One, it's just an engineering spectacle. I mean, these racing cars are not just any road cars or any cars for that matter. They're engineering masterpieces that take to the road and entertain us all the time. I mean, even if we went to try, we couldn't understand half of those systems, but my goodness me, they do such a good job over that. But in terms of the driving, that is something we can see, that is something we can understand better than the machines, at least some of us, that is. But your take, Kunal, who wins this one? And I think, finally, can we get number 11, that is, isn't it? Can we get number 11 finally on the top of the Grand Prix Prediction League chart in terms of the predictions? Because Perez seems to be carrying some good momentum in here this weekend.
Perez has a point to prove on Saturday. We know that he's done really well on the streets of Baku. So I think every good performance of Perez just sort of strengthens Red Bull's resolve in either keeping him or dropping him. But if it's a strong performance, it is going to be to keep him. And just one note about Mercedes, again, in their pre-race build-up, they actually said that the Baku City circuit doesn't suit the W12. So let's see how much of a suit or not suit
You bet.
it's going to be. Yeah, but lots of regulars to look out for. I would say looking out for Pierre Gasly. He seems pretty strong here in the AlphaTauri.
That's right.
Yuki Tsunoda said after the free practice sessions, I was quick and I didn't meet the wall. So I guess he's been pretty pleased as well. Esteban Ocon is on a great run. He scored 4 points finishes, his longest streak for the team. So another driver to look forward to. Fernando Alonso's had heroics in Baku before, so hey, why not? We're all Fernando fans after a point. And the midfield is going to be uber competitive, Soumil, and I definitely think it's going to be a cracker of a race, and maybe there's going to be a safety car, so we will have a lot more overtakes.
One?
Maybe not one, but talking of the safety car, safety car restart, the safety car restart strategy is going to be very crucial because it's got a long straight. So if the lead driver pulls out earlier than he should, there's a good chance that he could be slipstreamed into turn one, and we've seen this one before, right? So, even for example, warming up the tires at a safety car restart, low degradation or a low grip circuit, lots of slipstreaming that happens, especially with 3 and sometimes 4 cars. So if we have a safety car restart, it's going to be pretty much the best time to watch of the Grand Prix weekend, Soumil.
And ponder over it, right? How long can you keep someone behind without them having confusion over is the race on or not? Tuscan GP 2020 creates those sort of confusions when you back someone up for too long. But for the pole sitter or the restart leader, there has to be the most logical solution. These sort of micro stories about Baku is what gets us. But I won't let you go without a midfield prediction, Kunal, because the top is still okay. Top is still a few volatile winners. The low revving Alpine, the seemingly hybrid McLaren that seems to do well everywhere, or the Ferrari that could have the edge in the middle and the third sector. Not the third sector particularly, but the first and the second sector, which is similar to Monaco, where they aced it, not just in the midfield, but everywhere. So your take on that one. Who gets the midfield?
It's difficult to not choose McLaren, Soumil. That's my pick. And what's yours?
I have a feeling that I think Carlos Sainz will do something quite good today. He wants to avenge a big second place that could have been first, but you never know which way it could have gone had Leclerc not crashed in qualifying. But I think Leclerc and Carlos Sainz, they want a lot more right now. I think we're going to see a special driver-based performance. But it's Baku, you can't count anyone out. So I'm going to say, well, maybe we can see a Fernando Alonso heroic drive as well, much like 2018. Who knows? That's the fun of this circuit. But folks, thank you for listening. Thank you so much for watching this episode. And do join us on Sunday evening, or depending on where you are, Monday morning as well, because this episode goes up on 4 o'clock on Sunday night of morning, or Monday morning in India time. You get the idea, right? So join us there. Take part in the Grand Prix prediction competition on our social media channels, which closes before qualifying. So links in the description, and also the code TRIMINSIDE for a 20% discount plus free shipping globally. So, folks, that's about it from us today, and we shall see you on Sunday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Soumil.